So Jamie, so can we start now, or we should wait as a procedure?
I think there is a problem. It says here like your live stream shut down unexpectedly. Like try to go live again, or because I'm trying to go like press the live button.
Yeah, okay. So when you prepare well, so you can tell us. We can start. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
are starting right now, so we can do the intro.
okay, great. So let me. So I can start the intro now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can share the. Okay, I see the video on our Twitter and YouTube. Yeah, that's all works. All works now. Yeah, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let me start the introduction. And just as I speak to Alex previously, I think the AMM innovation won't stop in the future. Because in my today's speech, I will introduce the AMM function, the original mathematical definition. We will see AMM definition where has a beautiful function features. It's a strict convex function. So under such function, we can have many new AM formula and equation to solve the team problem. Yeah, so in today's speech, Virtual Swap will share their idea on their AMM new innovation. And that's reasonable when we see their new formula. When it requires such strict function, we can solve many problems. Also, for kernel finance, yeah, I'm kernel finance CEO, and we are also constructing a new AMM to try to solve the gaming and the gamified trading scenario use small chain algorithm. I think in our next cycle, there must be new AMMs, and no, not only Uniswap or Curve. And that's also the idea from Uniswap CEO, Adam. He also said AMM wants only one single formula. There will be many formula. So later and then Alex and Evgeny will share their idea on AMM innovation. So let's listen to Alex and Evgeny presentation and to learn their idea. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
everyone.
Hello, Alex. Yeah. Hey.
Hello. All right. So first of all, let me start. My name is Evgeny Lendres. I'm the founder of VirtuSwap, and let me begin by saying, thank you to the organizers. I think it's a great idea to have such a conference discussing new innovations in the AMM space. Like Wu said, clearly, AMMs are not just Uniswap and Curve, and so both us and Kano and other speakers, I'm sure, are going to highlight the different features of different AMMs and their suitability to different scenarios, right? So basically, the idea of VirtuSwap was based or was kind of founded from a simple situation. DEXs still occupy a very small space in the overall trading space of crypto, right? So the market cap of DEXs in all trading of crypto is anywhere between 5 to 10% right now, as it was also a year ago. And this is surprising because the idea behind automated market makers is ingenious and great and could allow to solve many problems that we have in centralized exchanges. Right? The reason that DEXs still occupy a very modest space in the trading landscape is twofold, and those two reasons are related. The first one is that there is not enough liquidity on DEXs, right? And trading costs are higher the lower the liquidity. This problem is especially acute in trading pairs in which the pools, are either small or non-existent, meaning that trades will have to go through different hops, what we call triangular trading, And that basically is going to multiply the trading costs, all the components of the trading costs, the fees, the price impact, and also the gas costs. Because trading is expensive, there is not too much of it. And that means that liquidity providers get relatively low fees, low compensation for the liquidity they provide, right? And that basically creates a vicious circle, right? There is not enough money to be made on DEXs, and that means there is not too much liquidity on DEXs. That makes trading more expensive. Traders don't come, and DEXs, as a result, still occupy a small fraction of the overall trading volume in crypto, right? And so what we try to do in VirtuSwap, we're basically trying to solve those two problems and basically remake this this vicious circle into a virtuous circle where trading costs are going to be lower, more traders are going to come to DEXs. That means the provided returns are going to be higher, again lowering the cost of trading, and so it goes, right? So that is what we are trying to do at VirtuSwap, right? Could we move to the next slide, Alex?
Sure.
Or oh, thank you. And so what we are doing here is that we have designed a new architecture of trading on DEXs. We're going to go into more detail, of it in a few slides. But the result is that we're able to reduce the average cost of trading by about 30%, and at the same time to increase the returns to liquidity provision by about 15%. Now, this is, the fact that we're able to do both of those things is quite remarkable, I think, because there are ways to reduce trading costs. You just use a different AMM trading formula, right? Or you can increase LP returns by just increasing the fees. But doing both at the same time is actually difficult, right? And we'll discuss how we managed to do this, right? Those numbers are based on extensive simulations using real world data, right? Trying basically to run all of the trades and all of the arbitrages through a typical DEX such as Uniswap versus VirtuSwap and compare the results. Right? Now, those reductions in trading costs and increases in LP returns are most visible for what we call smaller coins, or the 99% of the coins. What we write here is outside of the top 10. If we are a little bit more ambitious, it's basically all the coins outside of the two main assets, which is Bitcoin and Ether, and three or four major stablecoins, right? So for those pairs, going to basically be able to generate, much larger returns to LPs and much lower costs to traders, right? And in the remainder of the presentation, we're going to talk about how exactly we do this. Next slide.
Okay, thanks, Evgeny. So this slide actually talks about our positioning on the market, right? So we are solving the problems for the trading problem for smaller coins, especially we're solving the problem of indirect trades. So right today, if you want to swap between two smaller coins, and we talk about really big assets still, like maybe Matic and Link. So if you want to go on an AMM and swap Matic to Link, you would need to go through a third coin. You would most likely need to go through Ethereum, and that means that you would actually, instead of one trade, you will do two trades, and you will pay double the fees and you'll pay double the slippage. And our technology solves that, right? And looking at all of the trades on the market, right, we divided them into three main categories, right? So the big category is trading between major assets, or between major assets and stable coins, or directly between major assets and smaller coins. And major assets being obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum. And these are about 60% of the trades. And here, Uniswap or Uniswap technology provides a very good solution. Uniswap v3 is really great for the biggest pairs, and Uniswap v2 is okay for smaller pairs when trading is direct, right? And then we saw Curve come in to solve trading on stablecoins. right? Because Uniswap was not good enough specifically for stablecoins, and the both LP returns and trading costs could be reduced, and also price impact could be reduced with Curve. Now it turns out that around 20% of all the trades fall exactly into this category, that is trading between smaller assets or indirect trading between smaller assets and larger assets. And that's exactly the market share where no one actually stepped in to address, and that's where VirtuSwap comes in to solve the problem. So we are really doing for 99% of assets what Curve is doing for stablecoins, and our market share or market size of the trades, of the total trades, is similar or even a little bit bigger than that of Curve. Okay, so the important part here is that there is a huge number of trades that are very inefficient today, and we are addressing those trades. Okay. Now here we show a brief our brief view on the evolution of the DEX thought. It kind of follows on the market a review that we just talked about in the previous slide. So it all started with classic AMMs, right? So it's Uniswap and then the clones that appeared with slight variations on different blockchains as well. Later on, concentrated liquidity appeared. It actually was pioneered by KyberSwap, but Uniswap made it really, really mainstream. Also fascinating technology that works really, really well for big pairs, right? Because it requires a lot of management, a lot of moving the liquidity between the price ticks. So it really works well for very, very large and deep pools, but it doesn't really work well on smaller pools. By the way, we're working on some research papers regarding that, and we'll be releasing that later this year, specifically regarding the concentrated liquidity. Then came StableSwap, pioneered by Curve, and some of their clones came in. We talked about them. And there is also what we call generalized AMMs. Balancer, Dodo, the two are very different, but still it's kind of this category of more generalization. People looked at the technologies before then, so okay, why don't we generalize them and make those pools for more than two assets and innovate with the formulas? And I'm sure after today we will be able to add some more things to this slide, because we're going to hear more about some innovative ideas. Now, VirtuSwap actually innovates in a way that is not really competing with other technologies. So VirtuSwap technology is not about changing AMM formulas or changing the way AMM works. Frankly, at least in the first version, we're based on the classic AMM formula. But our innovation is orthogonal to all those, and it's about making indirect trades feel and cost as if they are direct trades. And that's how, again, none of those technologies solves the problem of trading between assets where there's no direct liquidity. You need, like with any of the existing technologies, if you want to swap two coins efficiently, there must be a pool that has those two coins. Now, VirtuSwap actually removes this need, and with VirtuSwap you can swap between coins even if there is no direct pool between them, and we will be explaining how we do that in a second. All right. Okay. So, but before that, we'll just say a couple of words about the team. So, VirtuSwap actually originated from academia. Evgeny, the founder of VirtuSwap, actually is a finance professor who spent about 20 years teaching advanced finance in the United States, in Boston University and other places. And started researching blockchain. What was that, Evgeny? 5-6 years ago. And this idea, came from the research. The co-founder is he's not here also Professor Ronnie Michaeli, also teaching in the United States, Cornell and other places. So the core innovation of VirtuSwap is coming from academia, and it's good and inspiring, and the technology is involved and advanced and strong. Okay, myself, I'm doing business and data in the company, have some experience with crypto, used to be the CEO of Beam, which is a layer 1 privacy coin. Daniel, our CTO, who is actually building the whole thing with his team, has a lot of experience also in the blockchain as well as in general development. We have a great COO who is helping us with all the legal stuff, which, as you know, is quite involved in this space as well. Used to work for DAOstack. And our great head of marketing, Olga, who is actually managing our community with her team. So we are pretty confident of our abilities, and we're actually delivering on our promise. So now I guess it's a good time to get to the actual thing and explain how everything works. Okay, so Evgeny, back to you.
All right. And I'll try to do it with the zero formulas, right? We do have quite a lot of mathematics involved in what we're doing, but I think it's quite easy actually to explain using pictures as opposed to notation. So let me try. So let's imagine an example where a person wants to swap USDC for Matic, right? He wants to buy Matic and he wants to sell USDC. Now, unfortunately, for this trader, a Matic USDC pool does not exist, right? Or is too small, for efficient trading. That is a true situation, right? That the trader is going to a triangular pool, right? Can you guys hear me? I think so. And
yes,
go to a all right, and go to a triangular pool, and that means that he's going to basically take go to USDC WETH pool, right? Take WETH out of that pool by putting USDC in it. Use this WETH in order to go to the WETH Matic pool, deposit WETH there, withdraw Matic, and basically complete the trade, right? So you can clearly see here that this trade, a single trade that the person wants to do, really is composed of 2 trades. And as we said before, this multiplies all the costs, right? And the significant portion of the cost is actually the price impact, right? And that is something that we are trying to the fee and the gas cost, of course, right? Now, this is a big problem, right? So as we write here below this picture, about 40% of all trading, and well, on all non-bot or non-MEV bot trading is triangle. So 40% of trades are susceptible to this problem. And if we want to estimate the cost to traders as a result of this inefficiency, these costs are staggering. They're about $500 million in extra price impact fees and gas fees just on Ethereum, right? Not even counting other blockchains, right? So that's the first problem, right, that we're trying to address. The second problem is the problem of the returns to liquidity providers. Now, liquidity provision business is risky, right? The reason is the impermanent loss. And, to compensate for the impermanent loss, liquidity providers, of course, to generate fees from trading. Now, this impermanent loss, basically, another side of that coin is profits to the MEV bots, right? So the reason impermanent loss happens is that MEV bots trade in order to try to exploit the fact that the exchange rate in the pool is different from the external exogenous exchange rate, right? And so basically, what happens is that whenever pool is imbalanced, the MEV bot is going to come in, extract money from the pool, and this is the money that is not going to come back, right? And that basically means that the net returns to the liquidity providers, net of impermanent loss, are actually very low. There is research showing that on average, liquidity providers actually lose money, right? That is especially true probably in Uniswap v3 with the liquidity sandwiches. That is something that, it's a part of research that we're working on right now. Bottom line is, it seems like LPs make very little, if not negative returns, and the reason for that is the take of the MEV bots, right? And so try to do, and as I'll explain in the next slide, is we're going to try to both of those problems. Again, too high costs for trading costs for traders and too low returns nets to LPs. Right? Go to the next slide, please. All right. So how do we do this, right? So let me explain very briefly. On the left picture of the same trade that we discussed in the previous slide, right, where a person wants to buy Matic and pay for it with USDC, right, resulting in a triangle. On the right, you see our pool architecture, and you see that our pool architecture is a little bit different from the typical one. And the difference is as follows. We still have two mains in every pool, right? For example, if you look at the right pool on the right picture, the WETH Matic pool, right, that consists of WETH and Matic. However, differently from other AMMs, we also allow so-called reserve-based trading. What that means really is that to every pool, there are some safe boxes attached that can accept other assets, right? In our case, the person wants to buy Matic and to pay for it for USDC. So we are going to have a safe deposit box attached to the WETH Matic pool that is able to accept it. Okay? Now, the question is, what is the exchange rate? What is the trading curve, according to which this trade is going to happen? Well, we construct those trading curves based on triangulation of prices in different pools in order to construct what we call a virtual trading curve, right? Trader, it's completely non-transparent, right? So that does not know whether he trades using a virtual pool or a real pool. The bottom line for the trader is that he basically trades at just triangle trading, paying one fee, one price impact, and one gas cost. Right. So what happens in the in the first stage of this trade is that the trader is going to go take the asset that he wants, which is Matic, from the pool that has the asset that he wants, which is the WETH Matic pool in this example. And he's going to pay for it with USDC by depositing USDC into this safe deposit box. Right? Now, if you think about the liquidity provider now, right, that does not look like a great deal, right? Because the liquidity provider is now exposed to the risk that he didn't really sign up to, right? So he's now holding some assets in reserves, those safe deposit boxes, right, that are not the assets that he deposited initially to the pool. Now, in the case of USDC, it's probably not a big deal because the risk is pretty low, but you can think about other cases where the assets entering the reserves are more risky. Now, how do we solve this problem? Well, the problem is solved kind of organically, right? Because in a normal kind of setting, in a normal trading setting, a lot of trades are happening. And what's going to happen is that there is going to be some other pool that is going to hold as reserve one of the two main assets of our pool, so either WETH or Matic, right? And one of whose main assets is the asset that right now appears in our pool's reserve. So for example, in this picture, we have a pool that is WETH USDC pool with the reserve of Matic, right? Now, whenever that happens, whenever we have a situation where two pools have reserves that could be exchanged by moving each reserve to an respective main assets into the pool, right? This exchange happens, right? So our system constantly monitors the situation where reserves can be exchanged. In fact, we have an incentivization scheme similar to sort of liquidator's idea, where people can search themselves for reserve, being exchanged, receiving some compensation for doing this action. The result is that very often, almost constantly, reserves are exchanged between pools, and a reserve one pool is moved to the main pool and receives the main asset of that pool in return. Right? So the idea is that every trade increases the amount of the reserve, but then the exchanges of the reserves basically draw them down, right? And the level of reserves in equilibrium is typically very low, and we have verified this using extensive simulations. Now, what's really interesting is that this exchange of reserve does not involve any slippage, any price impact, and any fees, right? This is just involves a little bit of gas costs, but we are going to first launch on layer 2 network on Polygon, where gas fees are going to be very low, right? So that's not a big concern. The big point is that first of all, for the traders, it's always one trade, slashing the cost of trading by many cases about half. And for the liquidity providers, the extra risk, right, is actually quite low, right? Because those reserves are very small. We actually limit them to up to 2% of the overall value of the pool. And also, we almost never reach this limit, right? The reason we don't reach it is that basically the reserves are constantly kind of exchanged and drawn down to zero. In that way, we basically again are able to reduce the LP's risk. Now, the reason that LP returns become higher is the following. If you think about the normal situation where a pool receives an asset, right, and gives the trader an asset in return, the pool becomes unbalanced, right? And that means that arbitrageurs, MEV bots, are going to come in and are going to basically exploit that inefficiency, right? In our case, this imbalance is going to be smaller because when a trader trades using a reserve, he takes an asset from the pool, but he does not deposit the asset, the second main asset of the pool to the pool. Instead, he basically deposits the reserves that is not meant for trading. And that means that the imbalance is going to be smaller. The MEV bots are still probably going to come in, but they're going to be making smaller trades and realizing smaller profits as a result. Next slide, please.
Okay, so now after we explain the basic technology that VirtuSwap is based on, the reserve-based virtual pools, we'll talk a little bit about the next steps or additional innovations that we're working on and that may be very relevant for the industry as well. So when we were planning the business and the launch, a question popped up saying, okay, we will launch, say, in Q1 2022, and we need to create the initial pools, right? So we want to create initial pools, but what assets and what sizes of the pools do we need in order to create the best possible DEX, assuming a certain amount of incentivization that we can give to our LPs, right? Because as we know, LPs today incentivize both by the fees and the like natural profits of the pool, and also with project tokens that they receive as a bonus for keeping their money in the pools. So to answer this question, we realized that we can and should use some AI and optimization techniques to see and find the right combination of pools that will provide us with the highest volume or highest LP returns based on the market conditions. And with this thought in mind, we actually built, or we are still building, actually, we already have initial results. We're building a system that looks at the trades that are happening on the market in real time. And then it adjusts the optimal composition of pools in our DEX in such a way that it will lead to the highest possible volume being served by our technology, right? Because our pools provide better results for some trades. Giving you an example I used before, like link-matic trades. If we support those 2 points, then our trades will be more efficient than on the market today. On the other hand, a USDT to USDC trade is not something VirtuSwap is going to be better than Curve, given similar liquidity, right? So where VirtuSwap shines is where the market today does not supply direct liquidity. So to sum up, this AI module is finding the optimal combination of pools given certain constraints. And in the first release, we'll only use it internally, but now we are having thoughts about offering this technology as a service or as a platform in some way to the industry, so that any DEX can actually optimize their pools to achieve their goals, whatever the goals may be. So that's one very interesting innovation we're working on. And here are some more further projects in our pipeline. Right, so we divided them into good stuff for projects and for LPs. So we're working on something we call reserve hedging. Right, imagine a new project coming onto the market and wanting to trade their coin, right? So today, usually they would go either to a market maker or create a pool on Uniswap or somewhere else against only one coin, right? Because they usually only have funds enough to support one pair, so they would create a WETH pair to their coin, meaning that all of their users and all their community who want to trade the coin to something else, to DAI or USDC or any other coin, they will have to do those triangular trades. So what we're thinking about is allowing those projects to come to VirtuSwap and make their coin available as a reserve in all the pools, and this way creating all the possible pairs with their coin. The problem with that is that the LPs that Evgeny mentioned before might not necessarily want here, right? The LPs might not necessarily want to hold that new coin because it may be very new, very risky. So the LPs will not agree to accept it as a reserve and hold it. So to mitigate that, this new project can actually hedge. It can set aside some funds in stablecoin or in one of the bigger assets and guarantee those reserves, right? And in this way, the project will create multiple pairs or all the possible pairs with their coin by supplying liquidity to just one pair and setting aside some funds for reserves. So it will be very useful for all the new projects who are today kind of hurting their users by providing only one pair. Okay, and the IDO module is kind of developing the same philosophy, developing the same idea of serving new projects to allow them a package of both providing multi-way liquidity to their coin and creating a price discovery module for creating price discovery pools for their coin launch. So that's our future stuff for projects. For LPs, we're working on two ideas. So one is protecting from impermanent loss, which can be very interesting. So it's a unique solution that we're looking at. And another thing is protection from just-in-time liquidity attacks, which are becoming more and more prevalent on the market. We're actually working on a research piece on that. So the just-in-time liquidity attacks today, they occur mostly on Uniswap v3, but probably will go and occur on other DEXs as well. And the idea is that the attacker LP actually plumps a lot of liquidity into the pool right before the trade, and then immediately takes it out and wins or wins actually both the trading fees and the price impact. So we are also looking into ways of protecting. This attack, by the way, mostly hurts LPs, existing LPs in the pool rather than the trader, but it's still kind of hurtful. So we're looking at ways to protect our LPs from those attacks too. So to sum up this part, we have this basic reserve-based virtual pools technology, and on top of that, with our academic and industry background, and by the way, the data science team that we put together, data science and research team, we have a 4-people team dedicated to that. We are actually thinking of more ways to benefit the DEX ecosystem in general, because we are very, very strong believers in DEXs, and we think it's a fascinating technology that needs to win the trading game in crypto and beyond. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Alex, for this. I think yes, yeah. So I think so far we kind of talked about the two important legs of our innovation. The first one is kind of the financial engineering. The second one is the data science, and we're actually quite excited about both and the combination and the synergies between the two. But we need to make the market believe in what we are doing, right? Because otherwise, all of this is going to remain academic, right? And so we need to think about basically, a strong go-to-market strategy that is going to convince users that what we are doing is right, and that it's going to benefit them. And when I say users, is the two main kind of components of this ecosystem, which is the traders and the liquidity providers, right? So the first thing that we need to ensure is that we have enough liquidity in our pool, right? So like every protocol, we are going to initially reward our liquidity providers by virtual swap tokens, right? That's common. We do believe that this whole idea, right, is problematic in the long term, right? It's not sustainable. We think that DEXs should generate organic returns to their liquidity providers, but we do need to jumpstart the system. And so we are doing what everybody else is doing. In particular, we are developing a log drop mechanism, right, whereby people can provide liquidity into pools that we choose, right, and receive extra incentivization for this, right? They can either move their liquidity by basically staking their liquidity tokens in other DEXs in, again, chosen pools, such as Uniswap, Sushi, Balancer, and QuickSwap, and so forth, or provide the liquidity directly, right? What this log drop is going to achieve is that, if liquidity providers would log their liquidity for a particular period of time, between say 2 weeks and 2 months, they're going to get outsized returns for the liquidity provision. And so even if they don't want to base their assessment of their returns on expected trading fees, right? Even if expected trading fees are zero, they're still going to receive sufficient returns in the form of our VRSW token. Now, what's really important is that at the time of log drop, our system of basically optimizing liquidity provision is going to be operational, right? So the system, again, just tries to, for a given level of liquidity, to allocate it to different pools to maximize some objective function. It can be the expected trading volume, or the expected fees generated by the traders, or the minimized trading costs, or maximized returns to LPs, or some combination of this objective function, right? So we're going to have the system in place, right? And we're going to incentivize the pools that we choose the way that we want to, right? So we're going to put more incentives, more VRSW tokens into pools that we deem important, and less, to pools that we deem less important, right? In order to try to control where people provide this liquidity, again, in order to benefit the whole ecosystem, right? Because basically the important thing is to grow the pie, right? Once the pie is big, it's a second order and easier question: how do we divide the pie? That's basically financial engineering. That's what we are good at, right? So the pre-launch, the log drop is going to be an important component of our kind of go-to-market strategy. Post-launch, we have devised a pretty unique tokenomics that builds on and extends the tokenomics of Curve. And the idea is that we want to incentivize people to keep their VRSW tokens and not sell them, right? And the way we do this is that stakers of VRSW tokens are increasing the returns to liquidity provision, right? So there's no direct rewards for staking VRSW, but if you stake VRSW and you're also a liquidity provider, then basically your returns for liquidity provision are going to be higher. And if in addition to that, you lock your VRSW, so basically commit to not taking and selling it for a particular time, then basically be higher. Moreover, the longer that you keep your VRSW in the system, the higher the rewards are going to be, right? So those rewards to liquidity provision are going to be duration based, right? So the longer you stake, the longer you lock your tokens, the higher the returns for the liquidity provision is going to be. And the idea is to basically disincentivize people to sell their tokens, because once they sell it and then they acquire it again, the countdown starts again, and they're going to be generating lower returns. Like any other protocol, we also need to engage traders, right? And we're doing this in some standard ways, in some less standard ways. So ways is basically community building, right? So we have a pretty active community on Twitter, Telegram, Discord that we're building and expanding, as we speak. We're doing a lot of airdrop campaigns, basically trying to attract the right type of users to our ecosystem, right? We don't care only about numbers. We also care about the type of that come. We want people, they engage with us to be basically active traders and active liquidity providers. And so our campaigns are targeted towards this type of individuals. And we do a lot of marketing efforts. We do a lot of research. So we publish many papers on Medium. We're working on a couple of research papers that are going to be published in finance academic outlets, but also shared in a community in a more kind of condensed fashion. And so we're creating a lot of information for the community with the hope that that people are going to engage more, after realizing the extent of innovation that we're doing, right? We're also integrating with the aggregators and bridges. Aggregators are important part of this ecosystem, right? Most trades actually go through aggregators, so we need to ensure to be part of that. Once we are part of that, many trades are going to go through us organically, but without marketing efforts, just because of this optimal liquidity allocation and this innovative pool technology that removes the necessity for triangle trades. Our trades are going to be cheaper, and some trades are going to go our way organically, right? Next slide, please. All right, so where are we right now? So we have developed most of our product. We have done 2 audits, one with 30K, the other with pessimistic technology, passed them with flying colors. Now we are in the second phase of our testnet, meaning that people can go to testnet VirtuSwap.io and try what we do, right? See how the trades go, look at the trade routing, compare the trade routing with what would have happened in other kind of traditional dexes, and really kind of get a sense for how trading works. We're constantly adding features to our testnet. There is going to be phase 2, phase 3, probably phase 4. There are also going to be a lot of competitions for traders. And again, all of that is to attract the right users to the ecosystem, right? People who really are into trading indexes, into providing liquidity, to try things out, inform us about some errors that we might have so that we can fix them, but really kind of to build an active community of users of the platform. We have about 18,000 followers across different platforms. We are planning, mainnet launch in Q1 of 2020. There is a typo there, 2023. Oh, great. 2023, you can get a sense here on this slide of how our DEX looks and is going to look, and so we are quite excited about it. Right. Next slide, please.
And that's our roadmap. Yeah.
Right. So basically, as I said, in Q1 23, so within 3 months or so, we are planning a mainnet launch. We are doing this on Polygon. Reasons. Polygon is a very active system right now. with a lot of competition among dexes, and that's actually good for us because this is a good place to shine, right? To basically showcase that our trading technology is superior in some or in many cases. So we actually basically like competition. We invite it, and we want to be in a place that is competitive. Polygon also is a very active kind of place. There is a lot of trading going on, perhaps more trades than on Ethereum, although of smaller size. In addition, we have a very good connection to the Polygon ecosystem in general. Some of our investors include Polygon founders and Polygon head of DeFi, and we are very kind of immersed in what's going on in Polygon, and and have also cooperation with several other projects either launching or that have launched on Polygon, right? So that's kind of for the immediate plans. For the remainder of this year, we are going to work on other innovations that Alex described, which we call in general V2 of VirtuSwap, right? We're going to work on the launch pad. We're going to expand our optimization module. We're going to introduce this reserve hedging module. We are hoping to keep growing the TVL and the volume of trading, right? And from the legal perspective, fully transitioning to a DAO and becoming really decentralized, right? And then, the longer term plans, we plan to expand on other blockchains. We plan to introduce more flexibility in trading, so multiple, fee tiers. We want to introduce concentrated liquidity provision. As Alex said, our innovation is orthogonal to most other financial innovations in DeFi. And so it is going to be possible to integrate V3 of Uniswap or something of this sort with what we are doing, right? And I think synergies there are going to be quite large, but for now, we don't know if we haven't simulated this, and we need to do this. MV protection that Alex described, I think it's going to be big if we're able to do this, right? So we have a lot of plans for at least the next 2 years, and perhaps beyond that, right? So we really our vision, right, is to become one of the hubs of financial and data innovations in DeFi, right? And we're working hard to to get closer to this vision. I think that's the end of our presentation, right? So we are super happy to take questions, right? Right. So this is kind of what this slide shows is the essence, right? So we are building or trying to build the most efficient DEX, and that means high returns to LPs, lower trading costs, and our basic slogan, right, is that everything should happen once, right? So every trade should only have one component, right? And that means one fee, one price impact, and one gas costs. Thank you so much from both of us for listening, right? Any questions would be super welcome.
Okay, yeah, it's great. Okay, so from my side, I have some question because we know it's a mathematic discussion. So I have some mathematic question about your AMM formula or equation. Because in your first introduction, you mentioned that you have 30% reduction on the trading cost, and also there also will be 50% and to increase ARP return, right? As the two main indicator you have mentioned. Yeah, so from my question is that because when we evaluate the trading cost, we have a specific indicator. That means it will be like the simple price. We can derive a price function, or we usually use a slope, and that means we use the minus dy over dx. Then we got the price slope, right? So when you have you can use 30% trading cost. I want to know the formula of the equation, the formula details. How can you derive such the price slope? And then how can you prove that your price slope is better than Uniswap, or maybe it's just Uniswap V2? Okay, so that's my first question about your price slope. How do we derive that? And you can
yeah. So the comparison, the relevant benchmark, right, is basically what would be the price if the price slope was completely linear and there would be no gas costs and no fees, right? So basically comparing the actual so comparing the amount out basically that would have happened with the linear trading curve, right, to the actual amount out that we receive, accounting for the fees, the actual convex price slope, and the gas. Okay, so the 30% basically means the following, right? So let us take this whole economy, right? Let us take the whole economy of all trading, in indexes, or for example in Uniswap, right, in a given year in 2022, right? And let's simulate all the trades, right? Let's run all these trades on Uniswap, right? When I say simulate, right, we don't want to do it once. We want to do it many times. The reason is that we basically want to see what would have happened if those trades were happening on VirtuSwap, right? So we basically take all the data, the trade data, the liquidity provision withdrawal, the returns of different assets, and we basically, kind of construct distributions of all of the relevant, estimate the parameters of all the relevant distributions, right? And then we run this system, right, and say, well, all of those trades would happen in Uniswap. We also, kind of at any stage, at any point, at every block, we compute the optimal arbitrage, right? And then we basically see what happens, right? And we do this 1,000 times. And we compute different metrics, right? What was the average trade cost, right? The difference between this marginal kind of trade cost using a linear cost versus the realized one, right? We can, aggregate them, for at the pool level or at the level of the whole protocol. We can also, count the LP returns at the level of the pool or at the level of the whole kind of protocol, all the LP providers. And then we run exact same trades, right, through VirtuSwap. The result is going to be like, when I say exact same trades, it's the trades by the liquidity trader, by noise traders. The other part, the arbitrage trades, are going to be different between that, because the impact on VirtuSwap pools is going to be different than that on Uniswap, right? Pools are going to be imbalanced in different fashion. Trades are going to go through different routes, and so arbitrage is also going to be different, right? So we simulate those two kind of sides, right? We compute the different metrics for liquidity providers and traders on Uniswap. We compute the same metrics as if we had the same initial liquidity, of Uniswap on VirtuSwap, but use the different trading algorithm, right? And we compare the results. So the 30% and the 15% is the difference between mean returns or mean trading cost of traders and mean returns to LPs, right? Based on the simulation, right? It's not closed form kind of comparison. It's a simulation based comparison.
Okay. Yeah, got it. So I think it's a metric, right? It's you make some stimulation and have such metric. Yeah. Actually, I have a question about your paper, because let me share my screen. Jam, can you go to my screen? Yeah. Hello, hello. Can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So because I'm reviewing your paper. Because in your paper you have I think the trading, your price slope is defined in this formula, right? In the 18
Mm-hmm.
equation, you have defined the
Sure.
price and slope. So in such formula, it is it better than the CPMM? That means Unisimple V2 model. So can you make a bit explanation on this formula, because I'm a little confused about
Sure.
this formula. Yeah.
Sure. So we are actually based on Uniswap V2 technology. So we are working with constant with a constant price, constant product formula, right? So the constant product formula, X times Y equals K, right? The only difference, right, between what we do and Uniswap V2, right, is pools, right, that are used for trading, right, are different from Uniswap, right? You can think about our pool being composed of two parts. Let's say that we want to swap, Matic against USDC, right? And imagine that there is a small Matic USDC pool, right? On Uniswap, because this pool is small, right, traders are not going to go through it, right? And they're instead going to go through a triangle. Each triangle is going to be described by this constant product formula, right? So we don't improve on the formula at all. What we do is that we basically move liquidity from different places, right? We construct what's called virtual pools. and we increase the size of our pool, right? And so now it makes sense to go directly through this large pool. We call it total pool, which is the combination of real and virtual. And in this total pool, right, the trade is direct for the user, right? So the user basically operates, the trading curve the user sees, right? It's the same constant product, right? It's just bigger TVL, right? Bigger size of the pool, right? Now, what happens in reality, right? The virtual pool is just a construct to think about things, right? It doesn't really exist. What it does mean is that part of the assets are going to go, part of the assets that are being sold by the user are basically going to go to other pools that contain assets that the user wants to buy, and basically that was used to create this virtual liquidity, right? So basically it's the same exact formula as Uniswap, right? The only difference is that we take liquidity from more places, right? So the pool is larger, right? The formula is the same. And as we said, we can work with other formulas as well. If we think carefully about a kind of optimal trading mechanism, for example, for stable coins, right? Then the constant product formula is not the optimal one, right? This curve math is probably, is much better for that. But the point is, right, we really don't care about which math is being used, right? What is the slope, right? What is the convexity of the pricing function, right? At any given point in time, what we really care about is basically bringing liquidity to the right place at the right point in time, right? That can work with any math. That can also work with V3, as we mentioned.
Okay, yeah, I understand. So from my understanding, that means because like units for V2, they use x times y equal k equal L square. So I think you have optimizing the L square. Use more liquidity source to make such the formula will be more smooth, right?
Fantastic. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
This is
That's my
this is a
basic
very good
understanding.
description.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. So yeah, so okay, great. So that's my first question, and my next question also is about the formula, right? Okay, I'm not sure you're ready for my question.
Let's try.
My next question is about the impermanent loss. When we say the LP returns, we will use the impermanent loss to define the return, because when the IL curve is above zero, the liquidity provider can get gain, can have gains, right? So curious about how to define the impermanent loss, and how to calculate how can you move such impermanent loss curve above zero. That's my second question about the LP side. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the impermanent loss can be defined in two ways, right? So the first way
Yeah.
is indirect, right? So you can basically look at what is the value that the liquidity provider started with, right? What is the value of the asset that he provided, right? And then you can look at the end result, right? And the end result is going to be composed of three things. So the reason why the value of liquidity providers' assets has changed over time, there's three sources. The first is the fees, right? So people, paying fees to the pool and increasing the size of the pool. The second one, change in the value of the underlying assets, right? And the third one is the impermanent loss, right? The first two things you can easily compute, right? You can compute all the fees that were put into the pool, and you can compute what would have happened, right, if the person would just invest those two assets that he put into the pool, in two separate, wallets, right? Two separate accounts. The difference between them has to be the impermanent loss, right? So that's the first way of computing it, right? The second way of computing it, right, is basically looking at the MEV bots, right? So, MEV bots operate in the system, right? And they're always trying to look for opportunities to, basically to take the expensive asset from the pool and to put the cheap one, right? And so they always kind of go back on the curve to the optimal point, right? It's not exactly kind of where the pool is balanced, because of the fees, but close enough. And basically, you can compute the overall gains, either percentage terms or dollar terms for for MEV bots, and that is the impermanent loss, right? And those two things have to match, right? So the two ways of computing them, right? And so really, what we want to do is we want to decrease the amount of money gained in the system by the MEV bots, right? Because any money not gained by the bots is the money that remains in the pools, right? And so this reduction in in the MEV take, right, is basically the increase in the returns of the LPs.
Okay, got it. So I think it's more on the financial engineering. It's not a math definition. It's more from the financial engineering to solve the boat and the MEV triangle trading, and then you can say
Uh,
some
uh,
loss
uh,
from the LP.
yeah. So basically, what happens is that the reduction in the MEV bots profits, right, comes from a smaller imbalance on average in our pools, right? Again, so pools are typically imbalanced as a result of trades. I mean, the imbalance can happen as a result of trades or as a result of exogenous price changes, right? But if we focus on the imbalances based on trades, right, or happening as a result of trades, right, those are smaller on virtual swap. And then Uniswap became, because of this reason again, that the pool, when the trade happens, the imbalance is half of what it is on other decks, right? So again, there is no there is no different kind of math in terms of the convexity or the the slope of the trading function, right? The innovation is in kind of bringing more liquidity to where it's needed, right? And as a result, reducing the imbalance in the pool composition.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Hello. Okay, yeah, just lost my connection for seconds. So I think that's all question from my side. I think because I have reviewed the paper, so generally speaking, from a virtual swap design, I'd like to. I will because in my speech I will introduce some basic definition of M trade-off. I will use one indicator and I call it the rate utilization, because when we evaluate the different AMM, we will use the trading volume and derived by the TVL. That means if you can make use of most of liquidity, you can have a higher rate utilization. For virtual swap, they use the multiple liquidity sources and they can rate the high capital rate utilization for the whole trading and ARP. So that's my understanding on virtual swap. So, Jam, are you in here? Hello, Jam.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So, because you are on the marketing side, if you have any question on the virtual swap market strategy, you can also leave your question here. The marketing strategy.
Like currently, like I don't have any question. I mean, you mean like question about like the marketing strategies Virtu Swap have?
Yes, because they have introduced their marketing strategy. Because a new AMM is not an easy thing to put forward to the users and the whole marketing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not an easy
yeah,
thing to
yeah. I do have
get a
like
new AMM.
a basic question. Like maybe it's a user view. Um, like how do you um what do you say this one? Like how do you explain AMM like in a 10 years old? Yeah, in a like in a teen or in a person that who's new in this industry, because I'm
Right.
not
So,
a
so we,
technical person. Yeah.
yeah, no, we hope
So
our users are slightly older.
yeah. Oh
But
no, no. Okay. So not 10 years old. For people
yeah,
who's
no, I
not
understand.
non-techy.
Uh, yeah. So I'm not sure it's an easy concept to explain, right? So I
Yeah.
to teach courses in university on blockchain and DeFi, and it's hard to explain to a 10-year-old. Just the concept of automated market maker is like so different from the typical
Yeah.
trading that people know, right? I'm not sure 10-year-olds know about order books, but but most people, other traders do, right? So it's a difficult concept to explain. But again, I guess our major selling point, right, is that regardless of what trading system you're using, right, you really want to make trades cheap. right? And so,
Mhm.
forget about all the financial innovation, financial engineering, forget about the data science, right? Our goal is to make trades cheap, and we want to make them comparable in their cost to centralized exchanges, right? Whether we do it with using some sophisticated mathematics or more sophisticated mathematics, like who is doing this, right? That doesn't matter, right? The end result to the user, right? Nobody's going to really read. Users are not going to read the white papers and really kind of go through the formulas and the simulations, right? They care about the results, and so the results, right? I think we do deliver. Or in the simulated kind of environment, we do deliver those results, and hopefully that's going to convince the user, right? I don't think maybe I'll give the floor to Alex. Maybe he has a better way to kind of to do this, right? I don't think there is an easy way to explain kind of the intricacies of this to a 10-year-old. But to me, I think the end result is what matters.
Yeah. So I think the explanation is like this. So you want to exchange your apples to your oranges, right? And you have two
Mm-hmm.
options. You can go to a guy called Sam or CZ and give him your apples and then hope you get your oranges back. But you guess what? You might never get them back. Or you might go to a very trusted computer system that will always give you your oranges for your apples. Okay, and that's what AMM is. So what I'm saying is we don't need to explain the technology because the technology really becomes very involved. We need to explain the basic premise of uh, less risk and no trust. Okay, our competitor as an industry is the centralized exchanges, right? And people still trust them, and people and they fail time after time, right? So that's where DEXs and all kinds of different DEX technologies shine because you cannot bribe a computer program, right? A smart contract cannot steal money, cannot steal apples, cannot steal oranges. So that's your 10-year-old explanation. So that's about being sure and about not being exposed to any risk of somebody stealing your stuff. That's to me that's AMM, and that's the smart contract technology that allows it.
Yeah, thank you for the real life scenario for explaining it to a 10-year-old. It's yeah. I guess I don't have any question anymore. I think like
Okay.
Uh, all right. So I just wanted to say that we are very happy to connect to communities of other projects that are kind of
yeah.
like-minded, right? That takes this financial innovation seriously, like Kano does. And so yeah, so if you guys, people from the Kano community that are here have any more questions for us, we're super happy to connect. Answer them online, offline, doesn't matter. Right? We're really kind of interested in creating more connections with people who are interested in kind of in bringing this ecosystem, DEX ecosystem, to the place where it should be.
Yeah, of course. Because apart from Canon Finance, we also launched Game Gear Alliance last year. So we have most the GameFi community. So if they have some question, we'd like to connect the new swap for to some GameFi project. Yep. Okay,
This is great.
that's great.
Awesome.
All right. All right, guys. So thank you so much again for having us. I think this is a fantastic idea. I hope at least that it's going to be a recurring thing, right? That we're going to have this kind of a serious financial innovation based conferences on AMMs and beyond. On DeFi in general. I feel super privileged to be here.
Yeah, actually like
Yeah,
today
same
marks the
here.
first, yeah, actually today marks the first anniversary of Cano Finance, so we are thankful that you guys accept our invitation to celebrate with us today and to present the your AMM view or your Virtu Swap AMM model, and also to our listener as well.
Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
guys.
Yeah.
Bye bye, and good luck.
Yeah, bye
Yeah,
bye.
we'll be in
So
touch.
nextly, yeah, I will start my presentation
Yeah.
on the simple speech of the basic AMM research and its trade-off. I think it will be it's a problematic speech. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can if you have any further communication, we can talk in our Telegram group. Yeah. So Jem, so
Excellent.
what's the next step?
Okay. Yeah. Bye, Alex and Evgeny. Thank you so
Bye bye.
much
Thank
for
you.
your
Bye bye.
presentation.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
We'll continue listening. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So I will start my presentation on the AMM mathematical definition and trade-off. Yeah, and I will share my screen now. Okay, so today's my topic is about a mathematical view of M definition and trade-off, and it's just my own research on the M. And only when we know the mathematical definition, we can forecast or know how does M can be developed and its future and the type. When I start my speech, I'd like to introduce the whole structure. Um, Firstly, I will introduce the strictly convex function condition, and then because only under such function features we can derive many formula and different equation, and then we can prove AMF function is convex. Yeah. After we prove M function, we can understand easily how does curve derive his own formula and how does he solve his equation. Just use some mathematical tools in the convex function condition. And then the most important part, I will introduce the capital efficiency definition to evaluate the AML trade-off. In the capital efficiency, there will be three indicators. There are slippage function and the rate utilization and the impairment loss. Yeah, so the most complex indicator is the impairment loss. Only when we understand the impairment loss, we can understand the unit V3's innovation very easily. Because target the impairment loss, and the unit V2 go to unit V3, they use the concentrated liquid idea. But its mathematical formula is really easy. It's just make a translation curve and then go to unit V3. It's really a simple mathematical idea. And then I will introduce the AMM founder. And the Clipper founder is he made his first PhD paper in the 2012, and also even the White Lake he used the Clippers founder's paper to make the UniV2's model. So the Clippers founder is the origin of OMM function. Yeah, and in the last part, I will introduce Iger's optimization on concentrated liquidity. So that's my architecture. Yeah, so and let's also I'm also like I'd like to make summaries on the virtual swap idea. So I just start this page is aimed to the off. Because when I listen the virtual swap idea and review their paper, the most idea I got is the rate utilization as I have had a communication with the Uniswap team. And just as Hayden Adams is from Uniswap's years word, he also said there's no single right way to provide liquidity. It simply depends on your risk tolerance, your asset preference, and your expectation of future price movement, and also your time duration. Yeah, so for the virtual swap, they make they select their asset preference. They select the small pairs, right? And also they use the multiple liquidity source to reduce the slippage and also to try to reduce the impermanent loss. So even the Uniswap founder, he also think no right single way to provide liquidity. In the next cycle, there will be more scenarios, like GameFi scenario, NFT community scenario, and social scenario. Maybe in the next cycle, there will be many new AMM to solve the specific scenario trading. And maybe it's not only for DeFi traders, it's for users, it's for consumers. Because there's no single right way to solve for all those scenarios. So that's my feedback or my summarize on the virtual swap presentation. Yeah, so let's back to the orange. What is AMM function and why it could have why it can have many formula innovation. So so I'd like to introduce the strictly convex function condition and the feature of convex function. We know when we say a function requires is convex, it must have two conditions. The first one is f prime of x equals 0, and then follow its second derivative is greater than 0. Yeah, so we should pay attention to this condition. It must require f second derivative is greater than 0. It cannot be equal 0. And let's imagine the fx equal x power 3. We know is f prime of x equal 3x x squared, and when x equals 0 is go to 0. But when it's go to f second second derivative, it can be equal 0 when x equal 0 because it will be 6x for of the second derivative. When it's equal to 0, it can be convex function. There's no minimum point, right? So when we say strictly, that means is f second derivative must be greater than 0. When it's strictly convex function, there are many beautiful features of such function. And they have a global minimum of the function, no inflection point, and they are always curved, do not have any flat sections. When it's a strictly convex function. Yeah. So how about AM? Does AM function is convex? Let's forget the Uniswap function. Uniswap function is just a specific function. Let's assume M function is just a ordinary or any formula is we call fx. Yeah, we know the f second derivative x is greater than 0. It is a strictly convex function. So when we say AMM, what's its definition? Assuming that AMM, automatic market maker, we all know its full name, provides two assets, X and Y. Any new investors can bid a crypto asset X of that X to the Netherlands in exchange for a crypto asset Y of that Y. So that's the basic definition. Firstly, we can derive that f prime of x is smaller than 0. Is easy to derive because in the pool, the pool asset is x and y. When x grows, the y must decrease, right? Because the users send the data x to the pool, and then the data y is out of the pool. So its first derivative must is smaller than 0. So we can know this we can derive such is a monotone increasing function, right? It's a monotone increasing function. Sorry, it's a monotone decreasing function. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. At one point, like I say, p0 is x over y equal fx. It's any formula. It's not xy equal k. It's any formula. It's an ordinary formula. It can be any formula. And the p user will be delta x over delta y. And then we go to slippage. We derive the slippage function. P users means p0 and over p0. And we get such formula. Let's derive the gx increasing function. when we construct a new function, we call gx. So what's the relationship between the slippage and the trailing size? The trailing size will be delta x of x. Yeah. So what's the relationship? It's easily to understand. In a pool, the assets combine x and y. If the trading size is bigger, the slippage will be will be greater. For example, in a pool, if you only trading the 1% of asset, the slippage may be not very big. But if you trading the 19% of the trading size, the slippage will be greater. So we can derive that the g prime of x is greater than 0. That means that such a gx function is a monotonic increasing function. Yeah. So how to calculate the g prime of x? We just find a limit, right? And when the x goes to 0, we get the limit, and then we get such formula, and such limit is equal to 0 because it's increasing. It's a monotonic increasing function, right? And then we know the f prime of x is smaller than 0, x is greater than 0, and then we can derive that for any AMM function, its second derivative is greater than 0. So we can get such beautiful definition of AMM function. It's a convex function, and we can do many mathematical solutions. We can use many mathematical methods. Yeah, so we can understand more about curve V1's new innovation. Because the curves function is really simple. He just introduced a sum function and combine the x times y model, and then he got his function. As I said, for any fx, only it requires is the definition. It must, it must be convex. So we can understand why the curve he used a Newton's solution to solve his xj when he swap asset, because it's a convex function. So he also can use this, and it had a really beautiful mathematical definition. Yeah, we can take a deep on the curves function. How does he construct his function, and how does he use his idea to to amplify this? We know curve V1 is a step swap, right? For the step swap, we can just say it's close to equilibrium. Let's say let's make a definition of equilibrium. When we say the pool is at equilibrium, we will assume that all assets x1 equal x2 and equal xi, and such we can let's define firstly and make a summation xi equal d. That means all each xi will equal be d over n, because every asset is equal in equilibrium. Yeah, so let's multiply all xi. Yeah, because each xi equal d over n, so it's just can have a power of power n, and then we get the multiply xi. So how does the curve does the curve construct his own function? So firstly, because in the step swap, the constant model is close to a step swap, right? So he must use such the constant sum model. That means summation xi equal constant. So that's the close to the step swap. Yeah. Also, he also should solve how does when it's out of equilibrium, how does it solve? So he used the Uniswap idea to solve the point out of equilibrium. Yeah. So let's make let's have some derive. Firstly, when is at equilibrium, we will say when is at equilibrium because summation xi equal d, and d power n minus 1 it equal d power n, right? and he used a chi indicator and multiply this formula. And then because in equilibrium, multiply xi equal d over n and power n, because each x asset equal d over n. Yeah, so it must equal this one. So in the equilibrium, such equation will be equal forever at any point. So it's really a simple function. He just constructs this function. Yeah, but when it's out of equilibrium, this equation will not work, right? It doesn't work when it's out of equilibrium because not xi equal d over m. Yeah, so if that's assuming and the chi is a constant, if we multiply such constant, because this one is not equal to this one, so such formula can't work. So the chi must be a function which has xi. That can work. If it's just a constant, this such equation can work because multiply xi never equal this one. Yeah, but this one is always equal. So he must use a chi with a function of xi. Yeah, so that's his basic function construction idea. Yeah, so at equilibrium, chi equal a, and it's always be um, it it always be equal. Yeah, when a goes zero, that means chi goes zero, and then the such equation will be universal v2. That means multiply xi equal a constant, right? So that's the basic function construction idea on curve. Yeah, so but what I want to say is about his function construction idea. As again, we say any function can be applied only if it matches such requirement of a strict convex function. Yeah, so the curve now put forward is curve v2, right? How does he make iteration on the curve v2? It's also simple. Because such a chi indicator is not very complex, and he just construct a new chi, but he used a more complex function and to match such equation. So in the curve v2, he makes the chi equal a really complex function is equal a times k0 and multiply a gamma square divided by 1 plus square 1 plus gamma square and minus k0. And the gamma is also another new complex function of xi. So for the curve v2, he just makes the chi indicator more complex and can match different scenario out of equilibrium, out of the step swap. So that's the basic idea of curves iteration. And he always match the strict function conjunction idea. So that's the curve. Yeah, so what does he solve? He solves the slippage function. As we can see in the continuous price, this one is the continuous price, right? And this one is the curve v2, and this one is a uniform v2. So for curve v1, its advantage is just optimizing the slippage function, and when the token asset is close to equilibrium. Yeah, it's slope and go to zero like the constant price. Yeah, so that's the curve's new function construction idea. Yeah, so we also define the slippage function, right? So let's again to this AMM trade-off. For the AMM trade-off, I think in my idea there will be three main indicator. For a slippage function, as we say, the curve try all his mathematical function, all his iteration is try to reduce his slippage function. Yeah, he less stress the LP side. He mainly try to solve the slippage. Yeah, for and the with also say the water swap, they try to improve the rate utilization, capital utilization. Yeah, it's not the TVI is not big, better. Yeah, and also I will introduce the Clipper idea. The Clipper idea also try to improve the rate utilization. He used a 5 asset pool, not only 2 asset pool, and then he can improve rate utilization greatly. And for the impermanent loss, I think the impermanent loss is the most complex is impermanent. Only if you take some other method to have some like the fee compensation, unless you will, yeah, you as you there will be always impermanent loss. That's the most complex part when we construct a AMM function. Yeah, and so let's just have a mathematical definition of impermanent loss. Let's start at the unit swap because it's the most simple function. Yeah. So because we know for any m function is must of convex function. For a convex function, they must have such a relationship. The P1 is greater than P3 than P2. The P3 is the slope of the 2 points, and the P1 and P2 is just at such is the slope of such point. And of course, the P1 is equal to P3 and P2 because it's convex function. Yeah, so let's go to the impermanent loss definition. It's V minus V head and then go such function, and then we derive such x2 minus x1 multiply p2 minus p3 is smaller than 0. So because p2 is smaller than p3, so this indicator will be smaller than 0, and then we can derive the L is always be smaller than 0. That means any trade with no fee compensation will always make us lose money. So that's why the impermanent loss it will be alive. In other way, only if you construct a M function, even it's really innovative, there must be impermanent loss. So how to solve this part? We may have the fee compensation or we have other liquidity idea, but in any M formula there will be impermanent loss. So let's calculation the impermanent loss at unit swap V2 because in this part we just use only we only use one condition. That's a convex function. We can derive as I is smaller than 0. We don't define any function, right? So let's calculate the L using the unit swap V2 without a fee model. Yeah, so just like we just define a K. The K is just a price movement. We use price movement. P go to P prime, and such price movement we define as a K. And then we just use this formula, and we can derive this ILK equal to root K and divided by K plus 1 minus 1. So that's the ILK mathematic formula. So if you have any price movement or up or down, there must have a IL function. Such function, let's have a picture on this. If you have any price movement, yeah, that's the picture of the impermanent loss. If you don't have any fee, it's always below 0, right? Yeah, and the K means the price movement. Yeah, your price movement can be this in this part it's just up, and in this part the price go down. Anyway, if down or up, there will be the curve is always below 0. Yeah, so that's the impermanent loss. Yeah, why we call impermanent loss? Only in this point, the impermanent go to 0. In any way, they are below 0. So let's see how about introduce the law. The law means the fee compensation. In unit swap, the law equals 0.3 percentage. And okay, when we apply the fee compensation, that means the traders pay for the pay for the fee compensation to the ARP, the liquidity providers. You can see that's his that's his picture, and again the case means price movement, right? So so there will be a smaller part. There is a few curve they are above zero, but the price range is really small. This only four low. Yeah, for the price range, yeah, for this range it's only four multiple low. So it's really a small price range. So and in such function we will know why most of liquidity providers are in loss, because there are few opportunity, few price range they can provide, they can make fee, they can make return. So that and so such derive is just for the is from the function. It's the mathematical function. So that's why I will ask what swap researcher and to how what's their impermanent loss function, because in such impermanent function we can derive the fee presentation and the return of LP. Yeah. So when we understand the LP, we of the impermanent loss, we can know the consumer liquidity on Unit V3. Because for the Unit V3, it mainly solves the liquidity provider side. Because for any traders, there's no difference between Unit V2 and V3. Only maybe the trading page, but it's mainly solved for the liquidity provider. How does he solve this? He used a virtual reserves. His mathematic idea is really simple. He just make this curve have a translation to this curve. It's a virtual curve. Yeah, so then we can know how does it to solve this part, because in the previous curve we can see it's as from 0 to very big, and the price across whole curve, right? And so the capital efficiency must be small. But when he make a transition from this curve towards towards curve, he makes the constrained liquidity. And how does he to derive such formula? His derived process is all simple. Because in the let's assume A and B point, because he had a translation curve, right? So we define the A and B point to calculate, and at each point it matches the x y equal L square, and then we just make some derive, and then we can get this very strictly. So for this formula, for the Unit V3 formula, is also a simple mathematic derivation. He derived the mathematical formula. Yeah. So let's introduce the last part. It's just for the small child algorithm of Clipper. As I introduced the Clipper founder, he had his first PhD paper in the 2012, and he introduced the AMM idea. So Clipper founder, he had his own idea on the AMM function. As I said at the beginning, any AMM formula can work only if he requires strictly convex function. It has such features. For example, for the unit swap, we also can say it will also be x power 1 minus f and multiplied y power f equal k, right? And for the f in the unit swap, and it's f equal 0.5. But also we can also say when the f equal 2/3, it also makes sense. And because even we make the alpha equal to over 3, the function will be more beautiful. And its slippage, it will be more small. And the liquidity provided and the LP implement loss also will be smaller if the alpha equal to over 3. So we will know, we can understand any MMM formula could work. Yeah. So in the clip, we can see he used a really complex M function. Is he used this part. Yeah, and so from x1, yeah, and to x n asset pools. In the clip, he used a 5 asset pool. Of course, it can make use of capital efficiency if he use a 5 asset pool, right? And so let's compare its slope. That means the price, the price slope. We just assume it have only 2 token, right? And then if it had 2 token, it's like this. It can be derived like this. And the clipper price will be dy over dx, and it will be like this. And for the p units of v2, we say CPIMM, it will be x0 times y0 or derived by x square. And then we can derive that the p clipper, the price slope always is greater than the PCPM. Yeah, we just use such a function. We can prove that p clipper is greater than CPM and use a mathematical formula comparison. And so when we try to compare the price slope will be better than Uniswap V2, we can have a simple mathematical derive, right? But we will also know that the MM is based, and the most important part is not it's the mathematical details. As I said again, if we just use the x power 1 over 3 and multiply y 2 over 3 equal k, it will be better than units with 2. And so the most important part is not the mathematical details. It also depends on our user scenarios, our consumer side. Yeah, generally speaking, as I introduced all the basic innovation and the direction of the AMM formula, but we say all those discussion is under the continuous function. Yeah, it's always a continuous function. But how about we use a discrete function? So when we use a discrete function to describe some new MM, we can understand them more. Yeah, so actually in later speech, the Jimmy and Braden, they come from Izumi Finance and Camino Finance. They use a discrete model to do the optimization on constrained liquidity. We can look forward to their speech and to know more about the new innovation if we use a discrete function. Yeah, so that's all my presentation. Okay.
Yeah. Um, it's a good presentation, Boo. Actually, I have a question. Since you explain these projects, AMFU, the Curve, Uniswap, and Clipper, and other projects. So I would like to ask, how are you going to model the AMM of Cano Finance?
So for the Canon Finance, we will have a new DEX called
Mm-hmm.
Pacman, and the Pacman we will we will refer the Clipper asset pools. Yeah, but our asset pool will be more than 5 asset pool, and we mainly for the such asset pool we will use for stablecoin and combined with one project token. And our swap is mainly sold for the GameFi scenario. That means we'd like to sell for the small shares for the GameFi project. Yeah, so that's the basic design idea of kernel finance DEX platform. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, like, in your point of view, like, what will be your target price for like the stable coin?
Yeah. So for the you mean the price fields or
Yeah.
else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for the price fields, in my design of the Pac-Man, the price fields will be originated from its asset pool. It's not from the oracle like the piece or the chain link, because it will be I will consult a family of AMM curve. That means all the curve can be balanced in from its internal pools. So I don't plan to use other 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 price oracle. Yeah, but mostly of AMM they use the piece or the chain link the price oracles. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Boo. Actually, we have a question here from Digital Capitalist. What price oracles are you using for price feeds? I think he is pertaining about candle finance or your personal choice.
Okay, so for the price oracles, wait a moment and let me search my own paper. Mm, yeah, let me find the paper. Let me find my paper. Try to answer the price oracle because for any for any new the price oracle is the most important part. Uh, your price oracle will affect of the trading slippage and the impermanent loss. So it's really important. Mm. Yes, so for the price oracle, and so I only discuss one scenario. That's how about if we don't use the oracle like the piece or the chain link? How about this? If we don't use those oracle, so the idea will be like it's a constantly opaque pricing. We always change the X and the Y pool to keep the current pool reserve near equilibrium point. Yeah, and so if we don't use some market price through our oracle, how can we solve this problem? From my design, I will use the repair mechanism. How does it understand? It can be originated from the scenario. Let's say if in the GameFi scenario, and for the small trade I reserve for the small trade scenario, and asset pool is not very big. It will only a small asset pool. In such a scenario, we can repay our pool price according to user demand. That means our asset pool depends on the users trading trading demand. And then according to user trading demand, we pick the pool and we pick our harmonic curve to make it close to the equilibrium. So that's my design idea about the Pac-Man DEX in the future. Okay, so that's my answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. I think there will be 2 hours
Yeah.
after minute. I thank you to capitalist. Yeah, you are yeah you are really the best audience because you join us for 2 hours. Yeah, I'd like to connect you later. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no like questions from the community side. So do you have like
Yeah.
any additional like message to for this first conference before we, end this conference?
Okay, I think it's really a great conference. We learn some we learn some innovation
Hmm.
idea from what Swap. And for me, I just make a general research on the MM iteration. And let's look forward to other speech from the virtual swap and coming finance because such two financial protocol they use a discrete function to solve to optimize the concentrated liquidity. I think that will be great speech in our later conference. That's really amazing from their innovative idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like I'd like to take this time to thank everyone, to also for VirtuSwap to accept the invitation on speaking here in the first conference, the AMM conference, and also share the VirtuSwap AMM model to everyone, and also like to our listener right now who's listening to this conference as well, and also like to our head of algorithm Boo for sharing your AMM view here in this room.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess it's been 2 hours already, so I hope like you will also catch up later part 2 for AMM conference. Yeah. We'll see you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I see you guys. Yeah. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
okay. Bye.
Bye.